Chapter 9 of Nip and Tuck by a Self-Made Man. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 9. Tuck Takes Another Fall Out of Broker Savage. After a pleasant walk down Broad Street, they turned to the left and presently entered Delmonico's. There were probably 40 or 50 brokers and other business men in the place when they arrived, and the two girls attracted immediate notice. Uncommonly pretty girls always do, you know. Some girls would have felt very much embarrassed under the circumstances, but neither Laura nor her friend appeared to be ruffled by the attention they attracted. Tuck ordered a first-class lunch. A few of the brokers were on speaking terms with the boys, and those nodded in a friendly way at the young fellows. They no doubt wondered who the lovely girls were. "Do you come in here often?" asked Miss Clark of Nip. "Well, hardly. It isn't because we can't afford it, you know. But Tuck and I haven't gotten weaned away from our old-time quick lunches yet." "I've always heard there was a great deal of money made in Wall Street, and I did think of making a little venture myself after hearing how successful Laura has been in her dealings with you and your friend. But after what Mr. Tuck said about some of the methods in vogue down here, I'm not quite so anxious to become a lamb as I was." "What did he say?" inquired Nip curiously, believing his friend had been quizzing the girl. Mira told him as near as she could remember, and her companion laughed. "You mustn't believe everything Tuck says," he answered with a grin. "Still, I won't say he didn't hit the nail on the head when he said speculation in Wall Street is a pretty risky matter. Why, I've known old brokers who have spent most of their lives in the street to go broke in a single hour on the stock exchange." "Is it possible?" exclaimed Miss Clark, much astonished. "There's a heap of luck in it. Why, I myself cleared $102,000 a couple of weeks ago by working a pointer for all it was worth after I received it from a certain person." "My, how fortunate you are! And you're only a—" She was going to say boy, but caught herself in time and blushed vividly. Nip easily supplied the missing word, but though he was not any too well pleased at the suppressed allusion to his youthfulness, he laughed it off. "The gentlemen all seem to be jolly around us. They don't look as if they've lost any money lately," remarked Mira, observing that most all the faces wore a cheerful expression. "It's the way they have. You can't always tell whether they've lost anything or not. I know one broker who was hit for $60,000 in a recent slump, who, when asked how he had come out, declared he had simply coined money on the decline. Indeed, it was several days before even his most intimate friend found out that he had been a heavy loser." "I should think he would have been so upset over such a loss that he would have shown it in his face," said Miss Clark. "Not at all. It pays better to pretend you're a winner than go about kicking on your losses. You don't get any sympathy when you're out and injured, so what's the use? Every broker is trying to get his hand into your pocket, and it behooves a fellow to keep his eyes and ears open and all his wits about him in order to avoid the traps spread to catch the unwary. See the stout man over at that table? I mean the gentleman with the burned side whiskers who was talking to the little man in the frock coat?" Miss Clark said she did. "They seem to be the best of friends, don't they?" "Why, yes, I should judge they were." "I wouldn't like to bet that big fellow isn't angling for the little fellow's bank account at this moment." "Why, what makes you think so?" "That's Broker Savage, and I happen to know something about his methods. That reminds me about the run-in Tuck had with him a little while ago." And he told Mira how Savage had butted into his friend in front of the exchange, and how in falling he had accidentally tripped the stout man up and sent him sliding into the gutter. "He must have been dreadfully angry," smiled the girl. "Well, say, he certainly was, but it served him right, didn't it? What right had he to bump into Tuck the way he did?" "Perhaps he didn't see him." "Oh, he saw him all right, and now Tuck is just lying in wait for a chance to get back at him. We always pay our debts. Tuck can tell you that." He started to tell her how he had avenged the kindergarten insult perpetrated by Broker Redstone, when the waiter appeared with a lunch, and after that the conversation became more general, Tuck and Laura, who had been enjoying a quiet tete-a-tete of their own, taking part in it. They spent more than an hour at the table, and the lunch was a very enjoyable one. Nip and Tuck escorted their fair companions to the Broadway cars, the girls promising to come down and see them soon again. "It isn't possible that you've actually shaken Miss Joyce, is it, Nip?" asked Tuck, fairly beaming upon his friend. "What do you mean by that?" "Well, you've been so wrapped up in Miss Clark ever since you were introduced to her that Laura didn't appear to stand a show." What do you care, old man? Asked Nip, winking his eye. You'd rather have Miss Joyce all to yourself than have me butting in now, wouldn't you? Oh, I ain't saying a word, laughed Tuck. It's a case of spoons between you and Mira, isn't it? How about yourself and Miss Joyce? Retorted Nip. Oh, I'm Miss Joyce's broker. Oh, so am I, if it comes to that. But you'd sooner be Miss Clark's broker, wouldn't you, honest Injun? No, I'd sooner she wouldn't monkey with the market. Oh, that gives you dead away, old man. How does it? Snorted Nip. Well, if you can't see how, I'm not going to tell you. And Tuck commenced to whistle. So I've caught you at last, shouted a stentorian voice in Tuck's ear as a heavy hand fell upon his shoulder and he was whirled about on his pins like a teetotum. When the boy recovered his equilibrium, he found himself face to face with Broker Savage, who was somewhat under the influence of Delmonico's champagne. You're an impertinent little puppy, roared the big operator, glaring at him fiercely, as if it would given him a great deal of satisfaction to have wiped the sidewalk in that particular locality with the youthful broker. What do you mean, you big coward? Cried Tuck angrily at this insult upon him in so conspicuous a place as Lower Broadway. Hey, exclaimed the big broker, you're the jackanapes who upset me in front of the exchange a few weeks ago. I've a good mind to hand you over to a policeman. Well, why don't you? And then I'll have you pulled in, too, for deliberately knocking me down in front of the exchange on the same occasion. What's that? Roared Savage furiously. Who do you think you are, anyway? Sneered Tuck. You don't own the sidewalk in front of the exchange. You're nothing but a big stuff, you know that? Why, you pestiferous little monkey, began Savage, making a clutch at the boy's collar, but Tuck avoided him by stepping back. You make me sick, cried the boy, as the crowd began to collect, attracted by the belligerent attitude of the man. You think because you're a wealthy broker that you can treat a young fellow like me just as it suits you, but I want you to understand that I have just as many rights as you have. I'm a Wall Street broker myself, but if I had shorn as many trusting lambs as you have in your time, or have had my conscience on the curses of widows and orphans whose savings have gone into your pocket, I'd go down to the battery and jump off into the bay. Broker Savage fairly frothed at the mouth while Tuck was speaking. Then he made a furious dive at the boy, intending to annihilate him on the spot. Had he got his hands on Tuck, it would undoubtedly have gone hard with him, for the broker was a powerful man. But Tuck saw him coming in time to sidestep and let him shoot past. Clutching only at the air, the broker tried to stop his progress and turn about. He only succeeded in tripping himself up. As he fell to the sidewalk, the momentum his huge frame had acquired shot him ahead. An open coal hole in front of a big office building lay directly in Savage's path. Before he could save himself, he dove into it and disappeared, like a sprite in a pantomime, from the sight of Tuck and the spectators. End of chapter 9.